The wind roars through the narrow pass as Sarah stands frozen at the lodge's edge. Snowflakes slam into her face and her breath catches in the freezing air. Her hands, stiff and numb, clutch her stomach. The baby kicks inside her, as if reminding her there's still life inside this death trap of a snowstorm. But it's not the cold that is eating her alive, it's the betrayal. Her husband, the man she trusted more than anyone else, had driven off, left her behind. Alone, she can't even fathom it. How could he do this to her? Her chest tightens as she watches the taillights of his car disappear into the blizzard, like it was all just a dream. He promised to stay, to protect her, especially in the hardest moment of her life, and now, nothing. Nothing but the howling wind and the crushing silence that only serves to remind her of the life inside her. A life she now has to fight for. But she won't give up. She can't. As her body shudders from the cold, she takes a step forward, wading through the thick snow. There's no telling how much longer she can stay on her feet, but she can't let herself fall. Her vision blurs as the storm picks up. She stumbles. The weight of it all, the freezing cold, the pain, her body's growing exhaustion, it all hits at once. She drops to the snow, her knees buckling beneath her. She cries out, but the wind devours her voice. And then something changes. She feels it before she sees it, footsteps. Someone's coming, through the blizzard. She doesn't have the energy to look up, but they're getting closer. The footsteps are deliberate, strong, but it's not her husband, no, it's someone else. A shadow, barely visible, cutting through the snow. Could it be him? Stay with me, because what happens next will change everything. Jonas doesn't pause. He doesn't hesitate. The billionaire who always seemed a step too far away from Sarah's life is suddenly right here, in front of her. His coat is thick, his gloved hands firm as they scoop her from the cold earth, cradling her like she's more than just another woman in danger. He doesn't say a word, no questions, no pleasantries, just urgency. Sarah's mind is a blur. Her heart races with confusion. What is he doing here? Her husband, he should have been the one to come back for her. It should have been him pulling her to safety. But no. Instead, it's Jonas. The man who had always kept his distance, watching her from the outside, now standing close enough to feel his warmth against her freezing skin. She opens her mouth to speak, but the cold steals her words. She doesn't even know what to say. How do you thank someone who you've barely spoken to, someone who's been the enemy for so long? Her thoughts jumble, and she only knows one thing for certain. Her husband is gone, and Jonas is here. Stay with me, Jonas murmurs, his voice a quiet command that leaves no room for resistance. I'll get you out of here. Sarah is too weak to argue, too shaken to question his motives. There's only the sting of the cold and the weight of the betrayal she's still grappling with. She leans against him, his strength anchoring her in the chaos of the storm. But the question burns in her mind. Why? Why was Jonas here when she needed someone most? And just as she thinks it's too late to question anything, Jonas' voice cuts through the silence again. I don't want you to think you're alone. You never were. Jonas pulls her to a makeshift shelter. The storm rages outside, but the small space offers her some reprieve from the cold, even if her mind refuses to settle. She's shaking, not just from the cold, but from the avalanche of emotions tumbling through her. Sarah looks up at him, her breath coming in shallow gasps. Why? Why did you come back? Why didn't you just leave like everyone else? He doesn't immediately respond, his eyes filled with something she can't read. Something complicated, layered under the layers of his usually calm demeanor. It's not what she expected. Jonas isn't just the cold, calculating man she thought he was. You think I came back because of her? Jonas asks, nodding toward the baby in her belly, though his gaze remains steady on her face. His eyes soften, and for a moment she sees more than just a competitor. She sees someone who genuinely cares. But why? I came back because I could. His words are simple, direct, and because I couldn't let you die out there. But those words don't make it any clearer. He's here. Her husband's rival is the one pulling her through the storm, the one who's keeping her alive. Her lips part as she takes in the absurdity of the situation. The man who had always been on the outside, watching her, judging her every move, now saving her life. Jonas places his hand on her arm gently, his touch warmer than the thick layers of clothing separating them. I won't let anything happen to you, not on my watch. Sarah feels a chill creep up her spine. Not from the cold this time, but from the strange comfort his words bring. Comfort she never thought she'd find in someone like him. But as she looks at him, her confusion only deepens. Why him? Why now? As the hours pass, the storm outside intensifies. Jonas keeps a watchful eye on the storm, occasionally peering out to check the snow's progress. His mind is sharp, calculating, his movements precise. He seems unaffected by the freezing air, but Sarah can't shake the strange sensation that runs through her. She leans back against the wall, her thoughts a jumble of pain, exhaustion, and the echoes of the betrayal she's still reeling from. Her heart races, but not just from the physical strain. No, it's the emotional strain that hits hardest. The storm's howling winds grow louder, rattling the walls of their small shelter. She turns her face into the corner, trying to block out the noise, trying to find a way to breathe through the weight of it all. But then Jonas speaks again, his voice low but strong, cutting through the storm inside her mind. You're not alone, he repeats, his words as much for himself as for her. I'll get you through this. Sarah doesn't know if she can trust him. She's barely able to trust herself right now. But there's something about his presence, something steady in the chaos, that makes her want to believe him. She exhales slowly, trying to calm the storm inside her chest. I don't know how I'm going to make it out of this. You will, Jonas says, pulling the blanket tighter around her. You don't have to figure it all out right now, but you'll get there. And just like that, Sarah feels something shift. Something inside her that had been frozen, shut off for too long. For the first time in hours, she breathes easier. But just as she begins to feel safe, the ground beneath them shakes. The shelter quakes. She stands, startled, as the walls shudder with the force of a distant rumble. Her heart skips a beat. She turns to Jonas, her eyes wide with fear. What was that? Jonas's face darkens. He turns his attention to the door. He doesn't say a word, but she knows it's not good. She feels it in her gut, something coming. Something worse than the storm, worse than the betrayal. But what's worse than all this? Jonas grabs her arm gently, pulling her close. You need to get out of here, now. His voice is urgent. Sarah's stomach tightens, but she's not sure if it's fear or the baby reacting. The rumble grows louder, the snowstorm now something more, a warning. A new danger approaches. Is there any way out of this? HIVIWRS, how would you have felt if you were in Sarah's shoes? Would you have trusted Jonas? Leave a comment and let me know your thoughts. The snowstorm's rage seems to intensify, but something is different now. It's not just the snow anymore, it's something more dangerous, something they can't yet see. The sound of crunching snow echoes in the stillness. Jonas's grip tightens on her arm as the ground beneath them shakes again. The shelter rattles violently, threatening to collapse. Sarah's heart races, her breath shallow. She struggles to keep her balance, her eyes darting to Jonas for reassurance, but his face is hard, his jaw clenched. The storm outside rages, and now the earth itself is betraying them. What the hell is going on? She breathes, her voice barely audible against the deafening wind. Jonas doesn't answer. His gaze is locked on the door, his mind calculating, his body already in motion. We need to move, now. Without a second thought, he pulls her toward the back of the shelter, away from the door, away from whatever disaster is closing in on them. Sarah stumbles, the snow around them deeper than ever. The storm feels alive now, not just a weather event but an entity, something monstrous and relentless. A loud cracking sound rips through the air, followed by a rumble that shakes the ground again. The avalanche isn't just a threat anymore, it's happening. Jonas pulls her harder, his breath quickening. "Hold on to me," he orders, urgency in his voice. Sarah nods, panic setting in as she stumbles behind him, the weight of the situation pressing down on her chest. Everything they had been through, the pain, the betrayal, none of it seemed to matter now. The only thing that mattered was survival, and as Jonas guides her through the snow, she realizes something terrible. There's no guarantee they'll make it out of this. And just as Sarah thinks they might escape, the ground shifts again beneath their feet. A massive explosion of snow and ice slams into them, throwing them both to the ground. The air is thick with snowflakes, and all she can hear is the violent roar of the avalanche, burying everything in its path. "Stay with me, because right now everything is on the line." Sarah is gasping for air as the world around her spins. Snow buries her body, weighing her down, suffocating her. She can barely move, her limbs heavy, numb from the cold. Panic surges through her chest, her heart pounding in her ears. She can't see, can't hear anything but the deafening silence of the avalanche. "Jonas," she screams, her voice muffled by the snow. She tries to move, but the weight of the snow is too much. "Jonas," she yells again, but this time there's no answer. She struggles, her breath coming in sharp gasps. She can feel the baby inside her shifting, kicking, almost as if telling her to hold on, to keep fighting. And then finally she hears it, Jonas's voice, faint but steady, calling her name. "I'm here, hold on." His voice is enough to anchor her, to remind her that she's not alone. She fights against the snow, digging her hands into the frozen earth, using all her strength to push the snow off her. But the weight keeps pressing down, dragging her under. "Don't stop," Jonas calls. "I'm right here." He's not giving up, and neither can she. Jonas digs frantically, his movements rapid and desperate. He can feel her. He knows she's alive, but she's buried too deep, too far beneath the snow, and every second feels like a lifetime. The wind howls around them, and the avalanche continues to rage, threatening to swallow them both whole. "Come on, Sarah," Jonas mutters to himself, his hands trembling as he clears away the snow. "Hold on, please, just hold on." He's been through wars, fought battles, but this is different. This isn't about winning. This is about saving her, about saving the life they never thought they would have. The world around him feels like it's closing in. His breath is heavy, his heart pounding in his chest, but he doesn't stop. He can't. Not when she's just inches away from him. Finally, he sees her, a hand buried beneath the snow. His heart skips a beat, and without thinking, he grabs her wrist, pulling her out of the snow with all the strength he has left. When her face finally breaks free, her eyes are wide, her mouth open in a silent scream. But she's alive. "Jonas," she whispers, her voice hoarse and broken, "I thought you left me." He shakes his head, pulling her close, wrapping his arms around her. "I'm not leaving you, not ever." But even as he holds her, he knows this isn't over. The avalanche is still coming. They're not safe yet. The storm rages, and Sarah feels herself being carried again, this time not by her own will but by Jonah's. He moves with purpose, his eyes scanning the horizon, looking for any sign of shelter, any sign of escape. But the snow is relentless, and the wind threatens to tear them apart. Each step they take is a battle, And as Sarah feels the weight of her exhaustion pulling her down, she knows that this is only the beginning. "We're close," Jonas says, his voice steady, though Sarah can hear the strain beneath it. She doesn't respond. She doesn't have the energy. She just clings to him, focusing on his every move, every breath. And then they see it, a flicker of light through the storm. A cabin, its windows glowing with warmth. It's their only chance. They don't speak. They don't need to. All that matters is that they make it there. But as they approach the cabin, the ground beneath them shifts once more. A crack rips through the snow beneath them, and Sarah feels herself falling again. Jonas tries to grab her, but she slips from his grasp, her body falling into the abyss below. Sarah lands hard, her body crumpling under the impact. Pain shoots through her, but she doesn't have time to react. The world spins around her, and she hears the faint sounds of Jonas calling her name. She tries to move, but she's too weak, too hurt to do anything. Her body is numb, her limbs unresponsive. "Jonas," she cries, her voice weak and desperate. She hears him getting closer, but the ground is treacherous, the snow pulling him in as well. When he finally reaches her, he pulls her up, his arms strong but gentle. "We're not giving up," he says, his voice unwavering. But she knows that this is the final stretch. They're almost there, almost free from the storm, the betrayal, the avalanche, almost. If you were in Sarah's position, would you trust Jonas after everything that's happened? Would you hold on to hope? Leave a comment below with your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you think. But as they finally reach the cabin, something feels wrong. The door is ajar, and the warm light that had seemed like salvation now feels like a warning.